it's like when I started thinking about Paulina, and I'm so proud of Paulina. She is really trying to take her life back for herself, and she's been eating her food right. She's been going to the gym. There's like little things that I'll help her. Like, it's easy to look at yourself and be like, ugh, why do you look like that? Or "Ugh, I'm stupid. And you can't. You have to tell yourself how beautiful you are, how healthy you are, how smart you are, even when you don't feel like it. Because you're you. It's you. You take
Exactly.
care of yourself. And so she's going down that, and I feel like, I was able to tell her, like, my she doesn't know exactly my money situation, but I can guarantee you that she knows that I don't have a fucking pot to piss in on my own.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want this to be a struggle. I want this to be something that I can build. And I think that I wonder if, and I not in a jealous way, but I do wonder if Paulina is like, damn, I kind of wish that I could be as free as Rebecca, because I think that Paulina is so unhappy.
Hmm.
But she's heeding my advice. At least she's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to grow with Rebecca.
Well, and that
But
goes so much further than the financial is that relationship. But
yeah.
so since we're talking about WTF, what was the WTF moment for you that made you recognize not only this is something I need to address in my life, but gave you the courage to address, to define what was the root cause of it?
Well, I think where it started was having communication with people. Like, I have a lot of people in my life that are passive, and I speak my mind. So it's one of those things where when a passive person isn't able to have a conversation about what's on my mind, I started thinking back about when I was a kid, and when my dad couldn't hear me because he's passive, that I would have to get loud and yell and scream and throw a tantrum and cry and feel like shit. Like, it didn't feel good for me. It was horrible. I think about the nights that I stayed up crying over that. And I caught myself having that relationship. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to address this. And then I just started thinking about my past. And you know what? I was able to kind of tackle one thing at a time. Hey, live at Alex's house. I'm ready. I want my own space. I want to be able to take trips and get my hair done and go shopping and take my family and friends. I don't want to be able to do all of that. I don't want to be like, shit, I just took out of this savings account to pay off this fucking credit card that I have. And I think I've always really tried to avoid money because
Hmm.
I've just never really had to think about money. I think that when I need it, it shows up. Why does it show up? Because somebody who loves me very much gives it to me. At some point, I have to be able to take care of myself. So I started thinking about the things that I'm good at. And I started thinking about the ways that I can make money without getting a conventional job.
Right.
And I have some things in the works that I'm pretty excited about that it can get started immediately. And now I actually need to sit down and look at what it's going to take me to get to where I need to go. I don't want to have debt. I want to be able to get the kind of car I want to drive. I don't want to have to worry about not being able to afford tires to put on the car. You know, I don't want to feel like, oh my God, I'm so close to I'm getting closer to my limit. It's time. It's time. So I just started Googling some things, but I know that it takes more than that because I know that from my fitness journey. Surrounding yourself by people who really know what they're doing elevates you. Well,
But how do you
that's
equate this journey to your fitness journey? Because that was also challenging, right? It didn't happen
yeah.
overnight, right? So what if someone is going through the same thing you're going through, and if you equate it back to how you started your fitness journey, how does those two equal?
Uh, I was depressed when I was before I moved here. I was depressed. I was sad. I was not going outside. I didn't feel pretty. I knew that I didn't look good in my clothes. I just wanted to avoid my neighbors. I didn't want to go anywhere. And I was like, you know what? Financially, I can't afford to live here anymore. What am I going to keep putting myself in this hole and every single month hoping that my dad gives me rent money? I wasn't eating healthy. I didn't have food. I mean, some days I would eat shit. Some days I would eat absolutely nothing, Cheerios, and you know, and of course I had friends, and I would get Uber Eats and garbage. I just wasn't taking care of myself. So the first thing I said to myself when I decided to move was that I'm going to be a much kinder person first. I'm going to be a more patient person.
Mm.
I That was when I decided, how can I start working on that? Well, I have some road rage. What's better than trying to collect yourself and not have road rage? What does road rage solve? Nothing. You're pissed off. Your blood pressure is spiked. Well, I'm mad now because this guy cut me off. And so that was the first thing I worked on. And I told myself I'm going to do this detox, and I'm going to find a gym. I can do that. And I was kind of feeling like lazy at the time. So I'm going to find a gym. That's going to be the first thing I do. This detox in the gym, and I'm going to talk nice to myself. And that's exactly what I did. Worked on having patience with people. I didn't allow negative energy in my space. I knew that my friend group was going to be real, like the bare bones. And I just walked in the gym. I had a plan. I had this book that Body Boss. Remember that horrible book?
The
Um,
torture book.
I mean, it was great. It jump starts you.
Yeah.
Having a plan is something you need when you go into the gym. Otherwise, what are you doing? So that I'm gonna do this book for 8 weeks, and I'm gonna just keep my head down, focus on myself. I don't
Okay.
care what anybody looks like. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. Nobody's even paying attention to me. That's how I went in to the gym. Nobody's even paying attention to me. I'm not looking at them, so they're not looking at me. I'm looking at myself. And what was weird was that, so I started getting through this book, and I was like, I really want somebody I want to start weightlifting. I really need to find a weightlifting partner. I just kind of thought about it. I'm like, I'm going to find a weightlifting partner. I'm just telling myself, I'm going to find somebody. When I get to that moment, that person's going to show up. And lo and behold, that's literally exactly what happened. You know? So it's like, you the things that you need in your life that you're looking for, you're gonna find. That's what it's at least seeming to me. I feel like right now the financial aspect of this, yeah, this isn't fun. I hate numbers. I'm pretty sure I'm dyslexic, but I think that once I get this going and I start seeing money, myself getting out of this hole, and I'm getting some savings, I think that it's gonna change my life big time.
Well, it's amazing. One of the key things you keep saying is that when I started to focus on this, these things started to occur, right?
Yeah,
Whether they appear from here, but it's because you were focused on accomplishing one single thing, right? Whether it was your health, now it's financial,
determined.
whether it's your job, because you concentrated on just doing that. I heard this
Yeah,
great quote on an interview where people were talking about diversifying to become wealthy. He goes, "You've been fooled. If you look at every wealthy person, billionaire that we know of today, they all focused on one thing. It's not diversification, it's concentration. Elon Musk was PayPal, Jeff Bezos was Amazon, right? Bill Gates was Windows. All of them started focusing on one single thing that really grew. And when you focus on those things, you start to see opportunities. You start to
yeah.
see abilities. You start to put out all the noise and just accomplish that. And your confidence builds, momentum builds when you do that.
You know what a big part of this for me is? And it's true, you see it everywhere, but consistency, showing up for yourself constantly. Even when you don't sometimes show up for yourself, because that's life and
Yeah.
sometimes that happens, you know, but then a day later, you're like, I'm back up.
Yep.
I'm back up. I love myself enough. I'm in this world, might as well love myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love myself, and so and I think that my fitness journey for me has been the biggest game changer because I was showing up every morning. I started in June for like 6 months. I did that little book for like 8 weeks.
Yeah,
Then I started
consistently.
working out consistently, and then
Yeah.
I started working out with a friend, and we weight trained, whatever. And the okay, so her husband, obviously, well, you know him, but he it showed me that you take things one at a time. You
Hmm.
bite it off, because if you try to do it all at one time, it doesn't work. So okay, great. I'm in the gym, I'm working out. I see changes, not enough to be satisfied. And I do know, because I like to research things, that obviously that's not enough. It's food. Food is a lot.
Right.
There's a lot of different factors that go into your health. So, then I got the plan written for my food, and I wasn't always consistent with my food, and maybe I didn't always trust the process, and sometimes I failed and sometimes I didn't. But from June to today, January 16th, a year later, or a year and a half later, I've been consistently trying my hardest to work out and to eat my all my plans. And I can tell. I can tell. I know that that's the evolution of it. It's probably the same way with money. I'm just, getting started.
And what I don't, I think what I want you to miss is what you said. You weren't perfect at the beginning, but you were committed, and there's a difference. Once you're committed, you're going to, and whether you make mistakes, where you don't follow the plan, but you were committed to go through. Right?
Yeah.
Committed enough that, okay, maybe I had not so good food the last few days, but I'm committed to this journey. I'm just going to show up to the gym. Man, I felt like crap. Maybe I shouldn't have eaten that. Let me try
Right.
this. And you may not trust the process, but if you're committed to the direction and the desired outcome, you're more likely to succeed than just a goal or just a
A remaining
resolution.
body, a
Right.
Republican
Oh,
never
that after
fit.
2 weeks it didn't work. Right. And that's why for me it's never set a goal. When you're talking about something for yourself, never set a
Yeah.
goal, set a
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah.
Because
I
if you
really like that.
promise yourself you're going to do this, you're more likely to be committed to it. Right. Because it's depending on your level of integrity. But when you promise, I'm going to promise myself I'm going to spend 6 months to do whatever it takes. And give yourself grace when you screw up or show, because it's brand new. It's not something you've done in a long time, right?
You're not,
So,
and you're never gonna, even if it's your most skilled thing, you
right.
can always grow. There's always opportunity to grow. That one of the things that I did, I think that really helped my mental, and it's so small, was I made sure, like, when I would drive in an area that I hadn't been into. So when I first moved up here, it was a perfect opportunity for me to really, and say it out loud. How Look at all the trees, they're so beautiful. Oh my god, the sky, the sun. What a beautiful sun. Like, every day, when I'm doing something, I try to acknowledge something that I can appreciate, or something that's beautiful. And I talk to myself, so I'm a little weird, but
But you're
sometimes
grateful, right?
I'll say it out loud, like when I'm eating chicken breast.
Yeah.
Delicious. I
But
love
but
this
it
so
changes
much.
that changes your perception of the situation, right? You
I'm
know,
a happier person, far happier.
how people say, "Oh, you're just full of yourself." Well, of course, but full of
Yeah,
yourself in a positive way, right? Full of
right.
opportunity, full of the things that I need to work on, full of my. If I'm not full of myself, who am I full of? Right? Not in a
Right.
negative way, but if you're not willing to work on yourself, and do
But I
the things that are best for you, how can you be good for anybody else?
It's so true. Even sometimes, like, some will be like, "Oh, this person, I think, was looking at you funny." Whatever. I'm like, "Of course. Look, I'm amazing. Of course, me.
You reframe it, right?
Like, there's no that's the one thing that I've gotten pretty good at, is trying to block
Right,
my space from things like that. Like,
right.
you know, being involved with friends and family, and that's why I had a skeleton crew of friends and family, because you do have to show up for them, and you do have to listen when they're going through something, and that does typically affect me, because I'm pretty empathetic
Yeah,
person.
you
So
are.
I do know that, and so that could also be a very it's gonna be a hindrance for me because I
Sure.
I can't take on too much,
Hmm.
and I can, and so I have to set those boundaries, and that's a big one. I don't need people coming in my space trying to make me look at the negative of people because you know what? 99% of people don't give a shit about you.
Exactly.
You do you all on your own.
Yeah. You're not as
No,
important as you think you are, and you are the combination of the people you hang around with, right?
it's
So
true.
if you want to take a step up, who are you around? Who is seeing and pushing and being honest with you, but to help you achieve the goals, especially when you can't see them. They have the
That's
confidence in you.
oh sorry.
No, yeah.
I was just that's why I'm so grateful for Paulina. Like her support is unwavering. I I mean, do you remember when we were gonna do the dog clothes? We
Yes.
were gonna do a stitch. I mean,
Yes.
I've had so many business ideas, and I struggle with like sticking to something.
Mhm.
I think there's
Shiny
probably
rock syndrome.
something more. Huh?
The shiny rock syndrome.
I mean, yeah, there's probably something a little more to that when I start digging into it,
Hmm.
and you know, but she, like the organization that that she's like, oh, she already bought stuff for it. She's like, when do you want to do the
Yeah,
garage?
I know,
And
right? We all need someone
she's
like that believes
yeah,
you and supports you no matter how
hey,
crazy.
she's willing to pay. Like she's just a supportive
Yeah.
person, and I think that those are invaluable, and the people that you hang around exactly you do turn into them. I could see some negativity popping up around certain people. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, gotta
back
go.
up.
Yeah. And you have
Can't be
control of
too
that,
close.
right? You
Yeah,
choose. It's so easy to choose to be negative or to be positive. It is
yeah,
simple choice to hang around other people that prop you up but are fake, or the people who are honest with you because they love you. It's always about choice. So if someone
yeah.
your age is going through some of the things you've gone through, what advice would you have for them, or what two or three things? Because now it's what's the fix? What are two or three things you can tell them to help them in their journey of finding themselves, of healing, of growing, so on?
First and foremost, the most uncomfortable part is being vulnerable and being real because we all have things that could get better. Like I don't necessarily like the fact that I can't afford myself. That's pretty shitty. And I also don't like the fact that sometimes I let my laziness take over, but it's real. I could lie to you and say, "Oh no, I'm not lazy at all." But what is that doing? That's just lying to you and trying to convince myself something that I know isn't true.
Okay.
I know that. So being vulnerable is number one, and that's very difficult. And then the second thing is, in my opinion, is that you have to, with that vulnerability, do some digging because I know that traumas and the way that you've been, had relationships with people, especially when you were young and developing, have impact. And, it's easy to blame. But when the older you get, you realize you how do you know how to raise the most perfect child by being the most perfect person? You
Right.
can't.
You can't.
It's not real. So you're people mess up. People maybe are in a different headspace. It's easy to be like, oh, that poor child. Yes. Oh, poor child. Now that child gets older and that child needs to take a look in the mirror and say, how do I fix this instead of repeating exactly what happened to me? Because that's what happens.
So let's go a little bit deeper in that for anyone who's listening to that says, okay, great. I want to be vulnerable and I want to dig in. How? Where do I start? What do I do?
I would probably suggest looking well for me. I think everybody's going to be a little bit
Yeah.
different,
What
but
did you do?
for me, it was looking at romantic partners and how the decisions I've made with romantic partners, and that was easy for me to correlate to a lot of my issues
Okay.
from my
That's a good
childhood.
one.
And I do think that that's very telling. The person that you decide to date, how they treat you, how they, how they feel about themselves, just it says a lot, especially if you repeat the
Yeah,
same
cycle.
that you
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
So that isn't it's a little bit easier, but you really have to be willing to see maybe not such, but like I said, when I because I didn't feel heard, I would scream, tantrum, cry, punch things, throw things, break things. I mean, unmanageable.
Yeah.
And who does that hurt? Me, because now I just broke a TV.
Right. Exactly.
So it wasn't it I know that I had pain, and I think that most people, if they actually really thought about even their most perfect day, maybe they saw something happen to their best friend. Who knows? It's so that's my like, really take a look at some of the
Right.
things that weren't right in your childhood, maybe, or a big
And
situation.
look at them objectively from, okay, let's find out where the root cause with the intent of identifying it, and then what can I do differently? What's the fix to this, right? But we have to know
Yeah,
what the cause of it, the root cause, because sometimes we're trying to fix a lot of symptoms without understanding where the root cause is. Where, we all, every human being from childhood is going to have some trauma. It's just a way of life. But then it's
right.
taking a look, it doesn't mean that that defines you permanently. If
But it
you're
can if you're not willing to look at it.
Exactly. If you're not willing to be vulnerable and to dig in from an objective point of view, not a self-punishing point of view, as to, okay, if I understand what the root cause with this is, what the reasons why I do this, what can I do
Yeah.
differently? Like for you, road rage, something simple. And it
Yep.
starts to change how our brains start looking at the same situation. The best measurable for anybody, and you mentioned this about partners, if you want to know where you are as an individual, the values you bring, take a look at the people that you attract as
Yeah.
romantic partners, because like attracts like. So when you
Yeah.
start seeing flaws or you start complaining about flaws, what you're really doing subconsciously is bringing your own flaws to light. Well, be conscious of, if that's what I keep attracting, the common denominator is me, and I don't want to
Yeah.
continue to do that. What am I doing to attract? What do I need to do to fix so that I can
Yeah.
attract the other person or become a better person? And that's huge.
I think one of the things about, like, trying to dissect the way that I am as an adult, people always say, you need to fix your inner child. You need to, and to me, I never really understood what that was until I made those tweaks in my, like, okay, instead of getting angry when I'm not having an agreement with somebody and we're talking on two different playing fields here, it, the, this friend, we were able to figure out how we communicate best. And so that was a change in my life, that was like a pretty significant change, because I'm like, I know that this person can make me go back to this, but I like this person. I like this person in my life. I trust this person, and they're they mean a lot to me. So, when you know that you have a good person in your life, you hold on to them, right?
Right.
And so when I made that change, like, I'm not going to let this make me feel this way. I'm not going to, react like I would react. It very life altering feeling,
Sure.
because now I have control over something that I never had control over before. And it's kind of just been a ripple effect. I like it.
Well, the reason to say inner child is because that is how you learned to overcome the situation as a child and never provided any other evidence to react differently. And
Yeah.
that's what people don't realize. What we learn between ages 1 to 7 is how we use as our foundation under stress, under pressure, as a reaction. And we
Right.
subconsciously don't even recognize we're doing so. When you take the moment to dig in and you realize, oh, if I wanted attention, if I didn't feel heard, this is what I did, and I got the attention and the reaction I wanted. Obviously, that works. That
Right.
continues on as an adult. It's not as
Yeah.
cute when you're a little kid, but as an
Yeah.
adult, now, but you said, you know what, that's no longer working. Why? Why was I doing that? Oh, because I wanted
Yeah.
attention. I'm not getting the right attention as an adult. I need to change my approach.
And it was unhealthy for me.
No, not at
I
all.
I'm exploding. My I'm such a passionate person, you know. So that was draining.
Yeah.
Draining. Talk about maybe one of the reasons why I consider myself a little lazy. Drained. And I was like, I don't like this. I genuinely don't like this. So I did start going down, I like to research things. So I did start kind of going down like some attachment styles, and I started watching some things that okay, I'm an anxious attachment style. You can kind of look it up and maybe gauge. And I was like, this is why I react like
Yeah.
this, and this is why I select this. It all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was funny because like a couple months later, I took this quiz online to try to see what I just wanted. I found this quiz for attachment style, and I at that moment I knew that I grew because the attachment style I did it multiple times. I did multiple tests. My attachment style came back as like healthy. I didn't even know that that was one of the attachment styles. I mean, obviously it should be, but I was like, okay, wow, easier than I thought.
But
I mean, of
so
course,
let me
anything can
recap.
be learned.
Be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to dig, be objective, but also
Yeah,
be curious, right?
very
If you
much so.
are honest and you're committed to
And
growing,
consistent.
yeah, and then be
Consistent.
consistent, right? Because if
Yeah,
you're not curious to say, okay, what's out there, I need to understand what this is, but be
yeah,
open-minded and objective to what you're seeing. And I'm like, that's not me. There's no way that's, well, you're not really committed to learning more, to growing, to
true.
really facing the fears and facing those dark areas that we all have in order to
Yeah,
shed light and to grow. And if you don't do those things, then you're going to stay where you're at, continue to making the same mistakes, attracting the same people, and wondering why you can't move from the position that you're at.
not happy.
We can't
I, you
move
know,
without any friction.
one of the other things that I did because of my financial situation, which actually is a blessing in disguise, because nobody wants to financially struggle, right?
Right.
So like all of the things that I would do, like go get my nails done every 2 weeks, go get my toes done every 2 weeks. You bring my car to the car wash, get my hair done. I mean, only recently just got my hair done. Get my lashes done, get my eyebrows threaded, you know, take care of myself, whatever. I was humbled. And in being in that humility, I was able to appreciate my nails. And but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to go back and get a manicure when I can't afford to go do that, because that I won't.
Sure.
It'll just be paint. But I was able to love myself rawly. And I
There
think that
you go.
that's what a lot of people don't get to do. And I
Yeah.
feel very fortunate that I have the position and the family that I have to be able to afford me to do that, because most people, they can't,
But you
you know?
reprioritize the things that were important. So being humbled help you to not only to reprioritize what's important because you had to, but then appreciate those little small things that were routine or you took for granted, right?
Yeah,
Because you had no choice. And now your health, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your well-being became a higher priority.
I feel good. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm
Than
happy.
than using
Without
nails and hair and everything else to feel good.
Yeah. And one last thing, I won't keep you any longer, but I'm able to also see something which I think is probably pretty important for me, because I do know that when people start making money, I don't want to say that it changes them, because a lot of times I don't think it changes people. I think it just exposes who they are. Being able to have those finances. So seeing greedy people with not having anything has helped me appreciate the things that really matter in life, and that is your health. and that is your family, and that is the people that show up for you, your friends, and feeling good about yourself and loving yourself. The money is important because you want to enjoy life. I want to be able to pick up and travel and go explore the world. And I'm a big person, I'm a fool. If you hold a sign that says you're homeless, I'm probably going to give you $1. And I don't want to feel bad about that. I want to be able to do that. And so I think that also humbly, I'm able to see things that somebody might not else be able to see. So I think that puts me in a good place to start diving into this next part of my life that is going to be a fantastic financial journey. I'm put it out there because
That's right.
I'm going to address my issues with money, and it's going to be, the rest is history.
I can't wait to see what you're accomplished. I
I'm
can't. I
really
mean,
excited. I think that I'm just ready. I'm ready to give back
yeah.
all the love and everything that I've gotten from people. So I'm proud of
You
myself.
should be, and I'm proud of you. Yeah, I know you're going to do awesome because when you put your mind to something, you always accomplish it. You did it in school, you did it at work, you did it with
Thank
your
you.
life, everything, but still.
Thank you.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm that's where I'm at. So I just wanted to tell you
Well, thank you, love. I
'cause
appreciate it.
I'm proud of myself.
You should be proud.
Thank